From the southernmost point of Dorne to the lands of always winter, what is west of Westeros, and the shadows in the east, this is Casterly Talk. I'm Ken Napzok. I'm here. I'm not alone, thank God, today. We're going to be taking a look at episode 9, The Green Council, directed by Claire Kilner, returning after directing 2 episodes early in the season. Writer is Sarah Hess, coming back, also serves as an executive producer on the show. Quick summary before we dive on in here. There is a beast beneath the boards. Literally, figuratively? Well, we'll find out. And the death of Viserys I is ushered in a tension-filled King's Landing thriller as a ruling class of the realm claw for power and race against each other to find the possible future. An unworthy king. The people of King's Landing are stuck underneath the feet of the powerful. Chaos is set in, and everyone in the realm is using everything they can. Arms, legs, and oh yeah, those feet to climb that ladder. Much to discuss here on Casterly Talk. Let's bring in today's panel to help this old, tired man through the show. Talk about the Green Council today is Alden Diaz and Andres Cabrera. We occasionally call him Ace because Ace is in the place. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Stressed. I say that after, I feel like I say that after every episode now. I'm stressed. Happy for one Rhaenys Targaryen, stressed out about everyone else.
That's fair. That's fair. Andres?
Yeah, I mean, overwhelmed by all the greens and all the green stuff and the green dealings. A lot of shadiness, a lot of dirty deeds.
Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot to talk about here. I only say this up top. You don't need to know about my life out there if you're listening. I had a lot of fun doing some comedy all weekend in La Jolla. So I didn't even watch the episode Sunday night. Man, that is a challenge to avoid trip mines out there on social media. You just eventually have to put the phone up. And I wasn't spoiled. I didn't know anything going to this episode other than it seemed like some people found a certain part of the show troubling, perhaps creepy. I was like, well, that's interesting. I can't wait to find out. Oh, it's Loras and the feet. Got it. We'll talk about that, all of it, and what it means here. But all that to say, a little tired, a little exhausted, but I do have the Night's Watch hat on because the wall of the Night's Watch was mentioned in this episode, which I appreciated. Allison threatening to send someone up there. I love that. Let's dive in here with the big reveals, the moments, themes. Gentlemen, we're going to go anywhere we want to go. By the way, I want to acknowledge Rachel Cushing. Levine was supposed to be here today. And then her work, she's a very sought-after, wonderful, talented editor in town. Big work day. She couldn't join us today. So we'd absolutely would have loved her perspective and valued her insight, but it didn't work out today. So Rachel will be back as we look back at Rings of Power this week and finish up our discussion. Andres, I'm going to start with you. Overall thoughts on this episode. Where are you going? Where do you want to take us?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the first half of the episode was just, let's try and find Aegon. Where is Aegon kind of episode. And it really did show you that this is the guy who's supposed to be the next king. And this is the guy who is supposed to be crowned by the Faith of the Seven. And he happens to be one of the most despicable, immoral human beings in all of King's Landing. By seeing those fighting pits of the kids. I forgot what they're called in the books. Gutter snipes, something like that. But by seeing that and by seeing all the bastards that he has and by seeing how he basically has absolutely no moral standing to be king and no want to be king and no responsibility whatsoever. And by showing you the hypocrisy of the Greens, by claiming all this righteousness. And then at the end, showing you that in reality, they're probably some of the most shady, despicable, bizarre people in all of King's Landing and in all of Westeros, probably.
I really agree with that. These pious, self-righteous people clawing for more power, using religion to hide behind these dastardly desires. Yeah, that's kind of big and real world. And I really agree with you, Andres. That first episode, first part of the episode, big thriller, the search, the MacGuffin kind of being Aegon, if you will. But it really was almost like a tour, a guided tour through the depravity inside Aegon and perhaps the high towers, or at least the Greens itself. I think that's a great, insightful point. Alden, you overall thoughts there?
I said this coming out of the episode, and emotions running hot, and I will still stand by it, though. I think that if the Reigns of Castamere, perhaps better known as just the Red Wedding episode, is the saddest hour of Game of Thrones on television, I think this is the most infuriating. Intentionally so. It's not infuriating like, oh, I didn't like it, I'm mad. No, it's effective in draw. It was a choice, right? Like, we're gonna do the villain episode. At least at this point, it was very clear who is being coded. This is who you cheer for. This is who you boo. And to split them and do green episode and black episode down to the titles. I think this was the one where it's like, we're gonna drag you, sort of like you guys both just illustrated, like through who this guy is, through this tour of depravity, and show you truly the lengths that they'll go to, that in human nature, if you give certain personalities, your Ottos and your Laris's and those types, if you give them an inch, the mile that they will take every time. It's like, I think they described it as a thriller. I believe that was Sapochnik that said, like, this has to be your thriller episode. That just is like this race against time, because even the Greens are having somewhat of a schism here between father and daughter with Otto and Alicent, but it's just infuriating. You feel disgusted on behalf of not just the Blacks overall, specifically Rhaenys, who we'll talk about. You feel disgusted on behalf of Viserys, who we've been endeared to and loved, at least mostly loved, for 8 spectacular episodes across 20 years of in-story time. And then this guy's body isn't even cold. And then you get into the Alicent of it all, where I think that truly one of the most, like, incredibly well-drawn characters that I've seen. To witness her sort of become someone took a great screenshot of Olivia Cook. She picks at her nails a couple times.
Yeah.
And it's like, for that to come back, like that teenage girl turned mom, woman, queen is now, oh my God, like I overstepped for the last time, and now I cannot go back. Like this is what he said. I was the only one that was there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, so you're signing off on our secret plan? Great, let's get started. The horror of realizing that you are a hypocrite, that you've become a hypocrite, you've enabled hypocrites, that we'll talk about Otto, but the fact that Otto is like I corrupted my daughter by telling her she will put your children to the sword. And then first chance I get, I'm like, we should put her children to the sword. Like she's trapped. And you feel trapped watching the episode.
Yeah, and look, I'll say, I as someone who has discussed many times on the show that I have an understanding or empathy at times for Alicent. I still do. I stand by that. I do believe she's gone full heel. I think that's what you're saying as well here, and it's been fascinating. And I want to start at the beginning, and Andres, get your reaction too, because I love the moments where the show kind of says, take some things out of this that you want. You know the action, you know the plot. And it's maybe your reaction. I'll start with you, Andres, and definitely want your thoughts here, Alden. We had the death of Viserys last week, and we had this wonderful discussion of, how much as Viserys is saying this, thinking he's saying this to Rhaenyra, thinks he's talking about the prince that was promised to Rhaenyra, and it's Alicent, and how much Alicent just simply misunderstood, wanted to misunderstand it, only heard what she wants, how much of it is a lie on her part, and how much should just think, no, this is what he said, and there's maybe no clear-cut answer. Pick that up in this week. This is where I'll pitch it to you guys. It starts off with the death. Well played. But then to me, I read it, and get it, tired weekend. I read it as both Alicent and then Otto kind of having this moment of, man, he was a good guy. He was, God, this is sad. Anyways, we better start. I don't know. Is that just me, Andre?
No, it's not. It's not just you. I'm pretty sure Otto he had this planned out beforehand. This is what he wanted regardless. But I feel like Alicent's kind of mishearing of A Song of Ice and Fire, Aegon's vision being to be, Aegon being the king, and that being Viserys' dying wish, as far as that's what he wants. And the way Otto reacts to it, I thought that was a really clever moment in directing and acting, because we see his face, and his face kind of lights up when Alicent tells him, by the way, the last thing he told me is that he wants Aegon. He's like, really? Interesting. Okay. Like, he really was excited about that. Like, that's the best news he heard, because now he can basically give a talking point to naming Aegon as heir. This is kind of playing politics, you know, in the Song of Ice and Fire world, where you're giving now the best ever cover story to treason, to taking a throne away. It's much more endearing to say this was his dying wish than it is to say he's a male heir, Council of 101. We've done this before. It's much more substantial if it's a male heir of the firstborn son. All this kind of stuff that's in the book, but it's much more endearing to hear, yo, this is his dying wish. Now you better listen, because this is what Viserys wanted at the very
We're
end.
the respectful ones. We loved him. He was great.
Well, you mentioned the politics. That we always talk the difference between the politics of the show, which is what it's, you know, it's morality statements, where the politicking is really this stuff. I thought of Otto as a campaign manager going, oh, wait, okay, this is good. We can run with it. We can make bumper stickers off this.
Yeah, that's a slogan. Yeah.
It's a
this
slogan.
was his dying wish.
And he's the prince that was promised. Yeah, I agree with that there. Alden, your thoughts? Again, this moment where Otto's facing the camera, and there's just like, oh, he was a good friend of mine. All right, let's do this.
Break. Yeah. I mean, it's, you get, like Ace, like you said, like you get the idea, of course, from him and Tywin Lannister and basically everyone but Beesbury, who we will give Beesbury his moment in a minute. Everyone there was in on this thing, and you get the idea that, let's say this never happens with the Conqueror discussion and the Song of Ice and Fire. He would have gone to all of those legal precedents. I'm sure he would have gone to I'm sure that plan was there. This gives that plan the extra shine, but it connects back to, and again, this is interpretations. Rachel and I had like a 50-50, like we agreed on 50% of it, disagreed on another 50% of what is Alicent's sort of headspace in that scene when Viserys dies. And I don't say this in like I was right way, but I think that Alicent is panicking because she has not given herself the time, because this is the next day. This is like some servant boy saw his body. This is this is immediate. It has been hours since she heard this. And
no time jump this time around.
None. We're done with them, at least for the future. And it's like, I think that she is panicking because, of course, I think it is I want to misunderstand. I'm grabbing onto pieces because I've rewatched what he says a bunch of times. He's talking about what the Conqueror saw in the north. He's talking about Princess Promise. Then it ends on the "you must do this. You are the one." Like that is such a, let me block out that north and you stuff and just focus on name. Like she's clinging because she's a clinger. It was to duties and studies when she was younger. Then it was to my role. Then it was to my dad's warnings. Then it was to religion. And now it's to this. And even other characters like Otto and especially Aegon, like in that carriage ride, are like, he said that? He didn't say that.
Yeah.
Like,
I really love that part where, again, it's up to your interpretation of the viewer, but I took it as that, like, she has convinced herself this is 100% what I heard. Yeah. She kind of like, no, definitely. And along the way, you have a lot of people going, including, I'd say, Lord Beesbury, God.
Beesbury.
No. Yeah. No, but no.
Because literally, you got to keep in mind, if he died the night before, that means you back it up a couple hours, it was dinner. Back it up a couple hours before that, and he was vigorously defending Rhaenyra and Lucerys. It does not logically track, and that's what Beesbury is pointing out, and that's what Aegon is pointing out. Aegon's like, before the "Do you love me," which is a very interesting character beat. It's the mom. Never. Like, he's a depraved, drunk, creeper, assaulter, abuser, and even he is like, that didn't add up. And so I think that the episode is definitely painting that picture. But again, it's the, once you've made the decision to grasp, it's like we said, like, did Alicent turn full heel here? Yes, but it's almost like she backed herself into a corner where the heel turn was the only move.
Yeah. And
she doesn't have a, like, yes, greens. Like, it's more so a, oh my God, I'm in now. I'm in.
Yeah, love that there. Andres, if you want to pick up anything on that thread, go for it. But I'm dying to get into just kind of your breakdown, your reaction, and your maybe upset stomach to the greens. I love what you're saying about the greens.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot here, right? Because I feel like as a book reader, it's difficult to not bring in a little bit of what the book does into the show. But it's interesting how in the book, it's all about Council of 101, and it's all about male heir, male heir, male heir. And in this one, it's much more Alicent mishearing Aegon as the prince was promised. And it gives her a little bit more of a motherly approach in her aspect and in her thinking, when she's thinking that what she's doing is actually a benevolent act, where in the book it's much more of a devious act, as far as, hey, you know, we might as well give it to Aegon because this is the way it's always been done. And that's what Otto keeps quoting back in Fire and Blood. So it's interesting how they kind of made a divide within the Greens, kind of like a Green Civil War with Alicent versus Otto. And they both have their Master of Information. Alicent has Laris, and Otto has White Worm, who is Massaria. And they both have kind of their own method of gathering stuff, but they're both doing it in a dirty, kind of devious way, where even if the Greens are feuding, they're still feuding in a manner that doesn't add up to their values that they self-proclaim and that they so happily describe themselves to have. So it's interesting how no matter what side you are in the Greens in this first act, you're still in a very devious and dirty and dark kind of attitude. And I feel like that's kind of a good description of what the Greens are. Like, whether you are in a lighter side of the Greens and not on the darker side of the Otto side, which is kind of what they're painting right now with the Greens, it still is kind of messed up and dirty regardless. So they do a really good job showing you that they are some of the most immoral people in this show, and they really do a good job with showing you that Aegon is top dog when it comes to that immoral section.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you, and you know, I don't immediately want to just completely dive into real world stuff, but I think this is a comment. This is art communicating ideas on real world things, not just in our current days, but all of days, and those who would hide behind rules, regulations, traditions, all for power, using what they can, using what lies or half truths they can fan on out, and all united behind a potential leader, if you will, like Aegon, who's the worst of the worst. And yes, there's a great beat, and we can talk about the boy behind the name there, but you know, there was pretty clear that tour, that field trip of Aegon's sins there. Not worthy to be the king. Even Aemon knows that. And who knows? I don't think Aemon's clean. But you know what I mean? And so I think it's a pretty powerful statement that they're making here with the Greens. And I really like what you're saying about that again. To repeat my point up top of the show, Ace, I really like your take on it. So all thoughts on the Greens?
I love what you said there, Ace, about like the green schism and like lighter green, darker green, like forest green and like more of a lime. Like the way that they have developed this is like something that Game of Thrones did so well, which is like there's a duplicitous lying to yourself type evil, which is sort of what Alicent is now brushing up against, and what Kristen Cole represents wholeheartedly. We've seen now how he like took that calling her a C word and internalized it. So now he's like, we don't ever speak about women poorly, ever. You understand me? Like the way that he's become that. But then there's honest evil. And Otto understands we play a dangerous game. We play an ugly game. I can't remember what the exact quote is. But he is way more in touch with like I think if you said to Otto, you're a hypocrite, Otto, because you were warning that she would put your grandchildren to the sword. And also, it should be noted, you pushed the Rhaenyra as heir idea. That was you, despite Daemon. I think if you called out Otto for those hypocritical choices, he would probably say, yeah, that's true. I don't think he has illusions about what he is, whereas Alicent does. And that's why you get the people that he employs, or people like Massaria, where he can have a direct ideological conversation with her, and Massaria and him vie for power in that moment. And she represents an idea that will, like, from Massaria all the way down to like Varys, is this thread of how there's always the not free folk. Well, yes, but small folk are always in the background, fighting for theirs and having to buck systems and having to refute these things. And we'll talk about her. But I think that the interesting thing about the Greens is that it really is like who's honest about their evil. And What's curious about where they cross is Larys, because right now he's in that Alicent faction of Greens, but he also tells Otto, my meetings with her could be advantageous to you as well.
Yeah.
He is an honest monster, where he will go on about his his plant analogies and his animal analogies and stuff. After having murdered his own family members, that guy is still an X factor. I think that could prove to be sort of their end game. We know that they are enabling something disgusting, and as we get more into Aegon, like we've seen sort of how it went from just being like a drunken teenager to what it became here. And that's not to absolve him at all, not at all, but we've sort of seen the way that they allow things to fester. They do, and they made their choices.
We'll get to Larys, the honest evil, a chaos climber, and we know Andres represents Baelish in our court of Game of Thrones here. What's that fate? No, you moving away.
You don't want to be Baelish. You don't want to be Baelish.
Oh, I just don't want to equate Larys to Baelish.
No, you know what's funny? Like, not to make it like a let's talk about the fandom, but I will just say that's been coming up a lot, especially after this one. Well, and I get why. I understand that people want to lump all the information brokers together as a role in the same way that like all Star Wars Imperials are one role. I get that, but I saw someone today that was like, "Oh, is he like Baelish but with a foot thing?" And I'm like, no. Baelish is started from the bottom and can play the Highborns against each other, and he got into their house and he sort of pulled strings and everything. This guy was Highborn, and he did have a bunch of stuff, and he was all these things, and he's a freak on top of it. Those are very different things.
I also feel like the Master of Information that we saw in this episode was very interesting, because it's funny how we see, and I'm kind of going off your point, Alden, as far as how each person gathers information. And regardless of the fact that Otto probably wants the darker aspect of this side of being a hand, right? When it comes to quick deaths, executions, anyone who speaks out will be put to the sword, and let's kill off Rhaenyra and Daemon right away. That seems to be a much more evil and darker side to the Greens. And yet the way he gathers information and the way he gets to what he needs is the most simplistic way, which is simply money and favors, right? Where he meets with Mysaria and he simply pays her off right away for the information, and then gives her a promise to try and shut down the fighting pits of the kids, which is a very, quid pro quo. Give me this, I'll give you that. And with Alicent, she has an out, right? Where she can kind of play dumb and be like, I just got the information. I just took off my socks and information filled my ears.
The information was just there.
It was there. I don't know.
And what's interesting is that like there's a sweet like inverse contrast that you're touching on there that I love, which is like Otto is willing to do the most brutal things, but has the chill methodology, whereas she claims to be the chill one, but her lieutenants are Lord Foot Fetish and the cop who destroyed someone's face in public. Like it's a really weird, like they have these coin flips happening between them. And that's why I love that the trailer line, which we thought was about blacks and greens, our hearts were never one, is about the two of them, not about Rhaenyra and Alicent, which is how it's used in the trailers.
I love the old trailer tricks. It still gets me even now. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, whatever, where they take a line and put it over something else and you just fall for it. You think, but and it's effective in the trailer. It was very effective in the trailer, and true for the trailer. But I like. I don't know. I can't say like. You use the word sweet, so this is quite an episode. You use the word sweet. I still look at Alicent and breaking from her father, but not far enough. Still trying to achieve the same goals, but just trying to, I don't know. I believe that she believes her own lies, especially when she's talking to Rhaenys. Like I believe she doesn't want everyone killed. I believe she can offer terms in her heart. But you're just looking around and going, no one else is.
And that's why it's important that Otto says, Viserys' daughter or your childhood companion. And that was the first time that someone threw that at her. Like Rhaenyra lightly did with and once upon a time we were friends, like when she did the marriage proposal. But it's never been aggressively thrown at her that they were best friends by someone on her side. And for that to come to the forefront here, I think ripples into her interactions with Rhaenys, which we'll talk about. And I think there are a lot of layers to Rhaenys' choice, which we will talk about, of course. And I think one of them is, once again, Game of Thrones, both shows doing this like parent to parent, especially mother to mother. Like even Catelyn and Cersei way back, they had those connections where it's like, we clearly could not be more different, but we have this. And I think that was Rhaenys saying like, it is only because I get you on that level that you live at this point. And a couple other things that we'll talk about, but super loaded, and the fact that she can garner any sympathy is important for her as a villain, because you need that.
Yeah, you do indeed. A lot of other things going on this episode. Andres, anything jumping out to your mind that you want to discuss next?
I just kind of want to go off this, keep going off this train real quick with Alicent. Just another little moment, and it's so tiny that I almost feel like I might be reading too much into it. But there is that moment where she sends out Kristen Cole to go find Aegon, and she almost gives him kind of like a little like, you know, you do it for me, baby. But then she's like, she kind of looks back at him and it's like, for the queen, for the queen. It almost feels like she is using her beauty and her stuff still to kind of get her way, even with a guy who pretends to be as pious as he is, Mr. Kristen Cole himself. And it is kind of this idea of her playing this game and pretending to be the most self-righteous person there is, even in front of the Green Council and in front of her father, when in reality, she's not afraid to get down and dirty and in the mud just as much, if not worse, than her own father.
I mean, like I've brought up Anakin with her a bunch of times, not because I think they have similar arcs, but because it is entirely possible for people to be both victim and responsible for all their choices. And she is absolutely both. Kylo Ren is both. There's a few of those people in Game of Thrones. Like, I can entirely get, and I still think that the Emily Carey younger Alicent is a victim through and through and through. But as she's gotten older, you get the idea in that one little moment of flirtation of, even if there is nothing from her, she knows that he might think something, especially because he worships her so much since stopping his suicide attempt, that it's like, oh, maybe for years she's been giving him the little peck on the cheek every now and then to keep him in line. Like, it's a very interesting thing to see her constantly do things that make you say, oh, Alicent, I feel for you. But then there's the giving the potion to Deanna. Then there's this with Kristen Cole. Then there's the way that she just allows the Green Council to go down the way it is. Like, yes, she speaks up a little bit about the murders, but at any point in that, she could have blurted out, you know, I'm not actually sure about this dream thing. We need to take a second. We need to send some letters to people. And she never does.
Yeah, I do agree with that there too. I look at Alicent as overwhelmed but driven often, you know, still. And the great speech that also was the trailer line of Rhaenys saying, you know, have you ever, you know, imagined yourself in the Iron Throne, which is probably in there as well, but it goes through Aegon. Anyways, not to get too off the path there. I love that stuff there. Yeah, I don't know. As far as you reading too much into it, Andres, I don't know. I picked up on something there too. I mean, Sir Incel is it's easy to inflame his dumb heart. By the way, Fabian Frankel, I want to give him credit.
Amazing.
He's so good, because this is one of the characters that I've gone from, I like this guy, to kill him now.
He's in my top echelon of hatred, and I mean that. And I invoked Ramsay. Like, there's that top level of monsters, and he is unique from Ramsay, because Ramsay, you just get the idea, is psychosis and malice and all these things in one unhinged individual. Joffrey is a little bit of that, and also the entitlement and youth factor. Whereas Kristen is new territory for these two television shows, where he is modern 2022 internet entitlement imbued into a fantasy character. He is she gave you just one fun night and then you scorned her because you are rejected. And that is a unique type of thing. And Fabian does such a good job. I almost feel like we need to give villain actors their due more than hero actors sometimes, because it's like they're gonna get booze for the rest of their career.
Kind of going off that, and I know we're giving love to Fabian, but I think his name is it Reese?
Reese
who
Ifans,
plays
yeah,
who
or
plays
Ifans.
Otto. Otto, I thought
Yeah.
he killed this episode.
100%.
Almost more than anyone, in my opinion. I know maybe Olivia Cook also cooked,
Yeah.
but I feel like Otto just really did a lot for me this episode, showing you that
Yeah.
he is kind of this old school Godfather mafia guy who is really just going about and doing his plan and enacting his plan and getting down and dirty in Flea Bottom, meeting with people like that. That actually took me by surprise as far as Otto actually being there. I thought it would just be the Erics. Shout out to Eric and Eric. But I feel like it was actually him being there, doing the dealings, meeting with the White Worm.
Yeah.
And then
it gives you the
Eric,
idea of like he's the second son, right? Like
Yeah.
this is his second son moment of,
Yeah.
oh, you were the hustler too. Because we know that
Yeah.
Corlys was. We obviously know that Daemon will do anything. But we never got that like, Otto, how did you exactly?
Yeah.
Like it's only been alluded to. So to get that element. And Reese, like he has what I think is the greatest like look down on a crowd look I've ever seen.
Yes.
Especially like it's amazing. He's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Andres, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just feel like his attitude this episode and the way he went about business was kind of like, oh shit, like he can do some stuff, like he can move stuff, he can make stuff happen right away, and he does it in a very realistic, natural manner where he doesn't really need to have all the talking points and all the relevant aspects, but if he has it, he can make it even better. He can pick the perfect location of the dragon pit. He can make an audience try and get excited and pretend that they're excited, I guess, because that's kind of what happens with Aegon at the very end. But he has all this planned out to the point where you kind of give him a tip of the cap where you're like, all right, man, you know, you scheming dude. You're pretty damn good at this.
Because there's that category in Game of Thrones Ice and Fire fandom of like players of the game. Whether I hate them or love them, like who are the best players of the game? And Otto's making a case for being up there for sure.
He's up there.
Well, it's part of what I love House of the Dragon is doing. And this is maybe when we look back on the season, we discussed this more. There was, I thought, a real bad article out there. I just hate those kind of articles of, you know, there's no one to root for in this show, so why do we care? And I just, I don't think that's the intent of every piece of art out there to put you, yes, you're some heroes, and yes, there's people they're rooting for here, but watching the Greens, particularly this episode, because it is the heel episode. The blacks aren't perfect over there. They've committed some sins. We're looking at you, Damon. But they are definitely right now, we'll see how it plays out, being coded as who you're going to, quote, root for. I just love this episode. I love watching Otto work, not because, again, that I'm rooting for them, but just to see it play out, just to study these characters, study how it applies to our real life. I've had a lot of fun with that this season, maybe even more than Game of Thrones in a way, though that series has its own things I absolutely love, and the spirit and heart and humor to it that sometimes I think this show lacks a little bit of the humor and the spark of that stuff. But anyways, I don't know if that makes any sense in my tired haze. I apologize.
It does.
I like just watching. I don't need to root for anyone. I'm just watching it happen. Sometimes with horror, and sometimes with all right, yeah, this is how it happens, and how can we stop it?
And that's the thing is, and I also like, again, I sometimes I have to stop myself too much from being like, and let me refute that. But in the case of that article, I would argue like it picks its spots very well. I genuinely feel that of moments of either the classic anti-heroes getting their moments, whether that's like, you know, Daemon sticking it to the crab feeder, is coded and shot and directed heroically. That the single night charge and getting through and taking everyone on, like you get stuff like that. But then there also are definitive, I think, you are supposed to root for this person moments. Rhaenyra and the White Stag comes to mind first. And then in this episode, if you're comfortable with jumping into that meeting scene a little bit more, we got two of the realest that have ever done it. Westerling and Beesbury, the only people with integrity in the Red Keep that night. The way that, you know, excluding servants who all seem very nice, we get that brief, that shot of that kid walking down, and it's like, oh, we get to see people like doing work here in the Red Keep. We don't see that a lot. But Harold Westerling, standing tall and everything, this being a change, because it's my understanding that he's dead, just casually dead at this point, in Fire and Blood, and he didn't really have much of a character to him, but they added so much. The pilot, from the beginning of the pilot, he is Rhaenyra's guy. He has like sort of like this kid, like in a very loving, like uncle-y type way. And for him to take off the white cloak and really stick it to them in this moment, I was afraid for him. I really did think that him and Kristen were going to duel right there. I thought it was going down, and I thought Kristen might backstab him on his way out. Glad that that didn't happen. And so now this is like it's not in the books at all type move that he leaves. So like, is he going to be Barristan Selmy and go find her and be a Queen's Guard? Like, that'd be awesome. And then Beesbury, of course, was sort of the shocker there. To see characters with integrity, I think that is the show telling you. Yeah. Even if it's a somber show in comparison, and it is, we all miss Podrick and Bronn. There are still people that make you go, F yeah.
Yeah, how'd you guys react to? I think I get a little bit of the flavor of your reaction there, Alden. But Andres, to old Beesbury, who's been played. They've been playing this guy as losing his faculties, as I think they said in the Inside Edition, and kind of been a bumbling old fool, hanging around. And I don't know if it's quite a hero's death, but he holds true in an episode that talks a lot about oaths and vows and keeping those things. He kept it.
Yeah, I mean, R.I.P. to a real one. Beesbury, Kristen Cole quickly put him out. That was a shocking death because if I'm remembering in the books, I think he's either taken to the dungeons and later killed off.
There's like two. It's because of the unreliable narrators. It's like, I think Mushroom says that Kristen like sliced him, and then someone else says they put him in a black cell.
Yeah, it's either one. Yeah, for sure. But either way, I remember eventually he'll be killed off anyway, fire and blood. But it's one of those things where it was a surprise to see Kristen Cole just kind of smash his head in very quickly, very easily. I think he just like tapped the back of his head and he just like slammed.
It was the nice marble of that little ball holder.
Is he? Who gets the marble rolled to them in the beginning? Is it him?
It's Thailand, I think. It's
Thailand. I thought maybe it was his, but yeah, no. But the fact that they focus on it up top,
so smart,
but obviously, shout out to the Lords who went down. It's a tough one, right? Because you don't want to be in that situation where you're given the option of death or declare Aegon is king, and you don't want to go back on your word, but at the same time you don't want to be killed off in a very stupid manner because you feel like, man, if I die now, that's kind of dumb too. I can fight back later.
And what about your house? What about your house when you're gone?
That's the idea that the other homie had. I'm forgetting his name.
I'll get it. Go ahead. I'll grab it.
But his idea was like, all right, it'd be kind of dumb if I die off now. Let me at least pretend to go along with it, and then eventually I can come back and sting him back after I tell Rhaenyra, but let me try and leave the gates. And eventually, obviously, he doesn't, and he gets hung on, and we see him hanging. So it's a tough one. It's definitely tough, and that's why Rhaenys is in a special position. Because all she has to be is like, just get me close to Melees and it's over.
Can't wait to dive into that. But I'm reacting a little bit, Andres, to those watching on the YouTube side. I'm shaking my pen in agreement because forget digging in deep into the themes and all the things we do love doing around here. I just had a gut reaction as a fan of this realm where I'm like, I would bend the knee so fast because in this world, that doesn't mean much. We all talk about oaths and vows in this world, and you must I'm an oath keeper, not an oath breaker. Break it, because you could turn around and get the message out to your house and do something about it. I would have bent the knee as a strategy, but
I would maybe just like to note it was Lord Coswell. Lord Coswell, who tried to be strategic and paid hard.
Well, I dropped my pen here. I'm so excited. Did he? Because he hesitated, and I think they were already on to him.
He definitely was. Good intentions, terrible performance. Not the actor, Coswell. Coswell did not play it like he was not sneaky.
When Otto asked him, "Where were you going?" I was like, "Dude, make something up. Just be like, I don't know.
I gotta go to my house.
I had a food order, DoorDash, bro,
Uber Eats, man. Yeah, something. Like there was so many options. And he just, and again,
he was like,
when faced with a great player of the game, some of these people just crumble. They just crumble.
Yes, and no, I was too. Just like say anything, which was, by the way, I always say, the one thing I wish I had a little bit more to laugh at during this season. That was a funny moment, tragically, and was it Helena just kind of where they're like, "Where's Aegon?" Not here. Love that. She played that perfectly.
I also who's an incredibly who had an incredibly well placed moment of comedy is Helena's handmaiden, who's playing with the kids. Because when we get into the scene, Helena is saying something super deep about, when someone else has something and you want it, and inevitably they'll come to blows and someone will try to take it. It's this whole like thematic statement that Helena's giving, and then the handmaiden's like, yeah. She's just like, quite right.
And you can tell no one's paid attention to her probably her whole life, which is this tragedy. And she's saying these, she's got these dragon dreams, so to speak. It just, the beast below the boards there. I mean, the telltale heart. Everyone should pay attention. But everyone thinks she's off her rocker, and I kind of like that as well. Lessons to be learned if you want to look for them.
She's 3 for 3 in terms of her visions. She had, of course, Aemond One Eye. Then she had the one while they're talking about her, where she's basically predicting the conflict, the schism, and everything that's about to happen. And now she predicts Rhaenys and Meleys. And I think there's something to be said there, just like in general, thematically, about the way that this world, and lots of fantasies do this, like they're not actually crazy. They were onto something, or they're not lower. They're something else. And I think that you can find that in like lighter ways, like maybe with Hodor, where he's like this like he's Hodor, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, he was so important and he mattered. I think that a lot of fantasy does that, and I think that her being, I said that Alicent was maybe the only green that wasn't a deplorable person. No, Helena does not deserve any of this.
No, start with that. Before we get on to some of the big stuff here, we got a main event we got to get to here. I do want to stop along the way in Flea Bottom. I want to stop with the likes of Massaria, the White Worm. We got the burning of the place at the end of that there. We can talk about all there, but her words there, I admit, I did not write it down, but her words to Otto about, you kind of have as much power as we allow you to have, in a way. I'm paraphrasing, I know. And it reminds me of things discussed in Game of Thrones of, the small folk don't care about who's on the throne. They want a long summer. They want food in their belly. And it's I really like that moment. I like Massaria as a character. She has acquired certain kind of powers and certain kind of value, made her own value in this world, and for her to kind of weave her way in, I'm interested your guys' take on what she said here in this episode. Alden?
The whole time that she was speaking, I was, of course, making those connections to later characters like Varys. But then there's that V for Vendetta quote that goes around every November. So we're almost due. And it's the, people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. And I think that's what Otto was forced to sort of reconcile with here in a little bit of a way. And I'm not sure if he, Otto clearly not one for his word. His word doesn't mean much. So when he gives that, I don't even know if will he even bring it up in the next meeting? Probably not. But it was, I think, a great moment for the show to have the people directly clash. The people represented by her directly clash with the system represented by him, because this is so intimate, and because it's a King's Landing, Driftmark, Dragonstone drama as of right now. For the most part, it's about to expand out, as we know. But the Game of Thrones storylines allowed you to get more down into the dirt, whether that was in Essos with the Dothraki, and like really get to know other cultures and other peoples, whether that was in Arya and the Hound walking around, we got to actually be there on the King's Road. This show doesn't have that. So to bring those themes to the forefront and say, never forget us, is sort of almost talking to the audience while we're having all this. We still, at any point, if we decided to just charge one of you while you're walking around out here, and the way that it uses Arik and Eric. I know it's easy to Eric and Eric. Like, it's the only way that I've gotten through that, by the way, guys, is by saying A is for Alicent, and the one that starts with A goes with her. That's the trick I've used in my mind. A's stick together is what I've done in my mind. But showing that these 4 accomplished knights with Kristen, Aemond, and Eric are useless on the streets. I think underlines so much of what she's saying about, don't forget, dude, we don't abide by you. We deal with you. We do not abide by you.
Yeah. There's always a tension when anyone goes down there. I mean, the riot in Game of Thrones season 2 is still as brutal as it is. It's still one of my favorite moments for what it represents in that series and that show and that story. So yeah, I found it to be this kind of chilling moment. Now, also what I found to be equally as chilling from Otto, and Andres and I guess clearly we're starting to say we're on Team Otto. I'm kidding. We love what he's got going on this episode. But this idea of like, oh, I won't forget, like, oh, that's those words have double meaning sometimes coming from him. Anyways, Andres, your take on Massaria, the white worm of it all.
Yeah, it's interesting what they've done with her character, because at first, after episode 2, you kind of feel like maybe she's going to disappear, maybe even for the season. Because in the book, I believe she doesn't come back until way, way later on as the White Worm, because I feel like she's off to Essos after Dragonstone. In Fire and Blood. So I feel like that's where she eventually leads up to by this point in the book where it's Aegon's coronation. But they're already kind of giving you a rundown on who she is in King's Landing, as far as the White Worm, Master of Information, all this stuff with the people. But it also is interesting as far as the way Otto makes this promise to her, and the way she wants to stop this, and the way that she knows that the Gold Cloaks have the ability to stop this, but they don't do it, and they are paid off by people who have placed bets in these fighting pits. So it's one of those things where she wants to have at least a little bit of some civility within the people. And it reminds me of that episode with Daemon and Rhaenyra going off in the city, and him getting to know the people. And he says it's important to know the people you're eventually going to rule. Something like that is the quote he uses. And it also teases how the people actually, most of the people somehow prefer a male heir in Aegon to be the king. That's the placing that we get, which eventually leads to the Dragon Pit coronation as well, when they applaud. And we know that's kind of why they applaud. But it's a reminder that the people are still important in this show and in this book and in this world, because they can determine a lot of what's happening. And especially now, when the divide is going to be so clear between the Greens and the Blacks and Rhaenyra and Aegon. So I really, really like Massaria. I'm feeling the whatever Caribbean accent she's pulling off right now. Every time she comes on screen, I'm just like, Caribbean Queen. Because that's what she is to me. That's what she's doing. I don't know what she's doing with that accent, but I love it. I love the accent. I love.
Yeah, people are hating on the accent, but I think it's a fun choice. I think it's choice.
I think it's awesome. I really do. I think it's a really cool way to distinguish her. But I also feel like her ending. I'm moving to the end where we see the building on fire, and it's like she's dead. She's not dead, bro. Come on.
No, she's not going in the Stannis category.
How dare you, sir?
How dare you, sir? Yeah. Sorry to poke an old wound. There's still hope.
He's still there. It was only Baelish that we saw for certain dead. Sorry.
He's going to be on the Snow sequel.
Stannis. He is.
Oh, he might. Yeah.
Just in the time we have left here, and we're not super rushed here, but I want to get to what I'm calling the main event here. We got a lot of things leading up here, and there's so many wonderful things with Allison. We could spend a lot of wonderful, not great things, but I think layers. There's a lot to talk about with Allison, but we got I think more time to talk about that. But it all leads up to, we got the great conversation. I loved the conversation with Rhaenys and Allison. I loved her. Just not only the question of, have you ever thought about being on the throne, but I know you think you're free, you think you're in control. I know, okay, we can't rule, but we behind every good king is a strong queen. You want a window in your prison. Ooh, that was one of my favorite lines.
Amazing writing from Sarah Hess. That was biting. I feel like that will go down. I don't mean to cut you off. I just had to I was hoping you brought up the line, because I was like, this is an iconic Game of Thrones quote. And Eve Best has had I wouldn't call it a burden, but some people, kind of like Patty Considine, like some people don't get a flashy role, and she's had a season of, she's only been in about half of them, and she's been sort of like even keel and everything. But for her to be like, I know something's going down, I'm locked in this room, gloves off. It's time to really tell you who you are or what your problem is. It was powerful.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it, and her character's gone through some stuff. I mean, remember early on where we looked at her as kind of this um almost this but her emails type of character who was like talking to young Rhaenyra and just kind of like, they'll never make you queen. Oh, would you like to do anything to change that? No, 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 no. I think it's interesting and to see her, I don't even want to say switch, but just where she's gotten to right now. And even with Allison throwing in the Corliss stuff and hey, kind of digging herself. I loved her fighting back leading up to the big reveal. But Andres, your thoughts so far, just maybe even on that conversation.
I was so curious where this was headed because again, I keep going back to Fire and Blood, but I was like, whoa, 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 this is completely different. And I was so curious what they were going to do with it. And I was actually very pleased with it because that scene was so intense and so well written. And we got to see incredible acting on both sides with Olivia and with Eve. And we got to see who Rhaenys is, where regardless of her feelings for Rhaenyra, not being, top tier and not being the most committed to her cause, but at the same time, never really declaring for the Greens as well. She's always been kind of more in the middle and realizing being placed in the position she's in kind of seals her fate, right? Kind of what you said, where keeping her locked in the room and keeping Meleys in the dragon pit, those are two no-nos for her. That made her quickly be like, all right, Team Green is not really my style because they're already keeping me prisoner.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to get my loyalty, number one. And number two, I don't go back on my word is kind of what she said to Allison when she says that, the word of my house is not fickle. And I really like that line as well, because it shows you that regardless of what has gone on in the past, and regardless of the fact that I'm not really keen for Daemon and Rhaenyra, I'm not one to go back on my word either. And I also happen to have a weapon of mass destruction on my side. So I'm not going to be Beastberry or other homie Caldwell. I can get out of here and I have a good exit strategy, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, and I love setting it, and even this you both I think talked earlier about Otto kind of using the dragon pit as this big giant pomp and circumstance kind of thing. This big look at us, and it is kind of interesting. I mean, the sword being presented, the sword being it was dare I say, Aegon looked kind of cool, right? It's like, oh, cool, and to set it there. And her kind of, all right, well, I'm here. It's kind of where I wanted to go. Now I'm here. I got the armor. Let's go ride. I think to have that, even that backfire on Otto, I enjoyed as well. Let's just talk about it. Talk about the coronation. Talk about it's a big moment. And mind you, this is episode 9. The penultimate episode, and even Sapochnik talks about we needed a penultimate moment and all this kind of, this is tradition in Game of Thrones, and that can set us up for sort of high expectations and maybe even some failures going forward if you're always looking towards episode 9, or at least the second last episode, as being the big game changing reveal. So I don't know, this was a different take on it, which I liked. So I like the whole end sequence leading up to the controversial decision for Rhaenys, which we're going to talk about too, that even Ryan Condal in the after episode thing says, people might not like this. They might not like her decision. So Alden, take us into the coronation. Your thoughts there.
Look, my favorite band of all time is My Chemical Romance. And to all of you that either sent me tweets, this happened at least 3 times. I saw it quote tweeted that were saying that he looked like Gerard Way in the Black Parade video. You're right. That was not lost on me. It was a vibe. I'm not gonna lie. Down to the bleach hair and the black, the gloves, and it was there. I felt it. And so just to build off of Ken's point, like, it gets you aesthetically for that moment where you're like, not gonna lie, the Conqueror crown's pretty dope. It's pretty cool. I love that one ruby jewel. Like, it's a good look. But it ultimately, Beast Beneath the Boards, everything that's been building up to this, I love the thematic visual of, you can do your high-towered sort of version of House Targaryen all you want. Real House Targaryen will not be kept down. You truly will not be able to contain this power. Now, mind you, there are dragon riders on that stage. Had Vhagar been accessible, would have been a different story. I'm sure Aemon, but he's cornered at that moment. Everyone on that dais is cornered, and it's that moment of House Targaryen. Going all the way back to the opening narration of the entire season. The only thing that could bring down the House of Dragon was itself, and so it's beginning that too. But it's also like never forget, it's going to come down to Dragon Riders and Dragon Riders, not you guys. And there's that element. There's the mother element of there's that look of like, this is for that conversation and that conversation only, that I spare you and your children. I'm not gonna, especially like Helena's there. Like Rhaenys is logical in her way. We've seen that especially in Lord of the Tides, the way that she does pivot and decide to accept the marriage proposal. She is playing the game, and every single Rhaenys move in the whole show is evidence to why she should have been queen, which I love. Like every single time you can apply that to the throne and think, yep, she would have been great. And then thirdly, turning her back on them, and therefore Meleys' back on them, when she so clearly could have killed them, even doing the Meleys roar, where they think it's going to be Dragonfire and then it's just a scream, is her saying, don't forget, I'm better than you. We are better than you. Because if that had been Sunfire or Vhagar and the roles were reversed, they would have burned the Blacks. This is a moral victory over them, at least right now. Not to say that everyone on the Blacks gets that moral high ground, but Rhaenys got the moral W here by far.
She got the moral W, but she didn't get the win, and she could have ended it all right here with the kill shot, Andres. What do you think about the coronation, Gerard Way as king, and this basement?
Yeah, I mean, is that the when I was a young boy?
Yes, especially as he's walking slow. Especially as he's walking slow, and they even slow mode it for like 30 seconds there.
Yeah, I think he should have sang it. He should have gone all out. I think he should have rocked it.
He might have swayed me.
He could have like done like a emo kind of quiet shy boy pose, and he could have been like,
and when the sword came up, that's when the music
started. Yeah, exactly. Eventually started swinging Blackfire around. That would have been great. It would have been amazing. I feel like I had a lot of mixed feelings when on first watch, because at first I was so shocked by it, and I was so kind of like what is going on kind of by it with the idea of Meleys just popping out of nowhere. But then eventually I was right on board with it, because we did kind of need a moment with Rhaenys. We, like you said, Alden, we didn't really get too much of her throughout the season, and I really did feel like the writers were just like, damn, we really didn't give too much to Meleys. We have to give her something. Like, we have to give her a heroic moment just to send her off on a really high note, and especially with a dragon like Meleys. Also, I know your point about Vhagar being a different story, but watch out, Meleys got these hands, man. Like, Meleys can scrap.
I can't wait.
Scrap.
I can't wait. She's got. I'm a big, like, I remember when Sea Smoke debuted, got the Sea Smoke emoji. I immediately was like, Meleys, just so I could see what it looked like. Great design. Once again,
Meleys is a fighter, yo.
Once again, a great design.
She's a boss.
Oh, and also, can I just say the splash of color on Rhaenys' breastplate? Like, we don't get a lot of colorful armors. Look awesome.
No, they don't do Game of Thrones figures as much as say Star Wars. They do exist, but and I'm not talking Funko Pops. But I would want Rhaenys Black Series 6-inch red dragon armor. That's a figure I'd want to put on a shelf. Great moment, Andres. So to your point, going back, I know we kind of derailed you a little bit there. And I agree both of you that Rhaenys has been not in the background. She's been key, but she hasn't been in every episode. She's been kind of quiet. She's had some great points. She has great lines, but this was a hero moment away, even though the ending we're going to debate and whether we like the choice or not in terms of just viewers, but in the story for the character. Anyways, continue, Andres, if you got some more points there.
No, yeah, I just think it's funny that she was rocking that armor too. It almost kind of paints the idea of, where'd she get it, or if it's on Meleys, maybe if they keep it on the saddle, and maybe that's where she just grabs it, puts it on or something, or maybe it's just just Superman style underneath the dress or the hoodie that every Targaryen has a hoodie that they rock.
This is my disguise.
Exactly. So I think it's cool because it does two things. It shows you Rhaenys being a pragmatist, Rhaenys being someone who's also compassionate in her own way, in her own motherly instinct, having just lost 2 kids herself and just still dealing with that loss heavily. And also, thirdly, to build up Meleys, in my opinion, because maybe me being the dragon nerd that I am, I can't lie if I would not say that I'm a little bit disappointed that we haven't gotten more moments with the dragons. I'm happy with Cyrax. I'm happy with Caraxes. The two moments we had with them very, very early on.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sea Smoke, the moment we had with him. But then this is kind of the next one, obviously, if we're skipping Vhagar, because we have to build up these dragons somehow. And that's why part of me, this is my little tiny Sunfire rant. I'm kind of disappointed we haven't seen Sunfire, which is kind of adds to the pride that the people take in Aegon in the book and Fire and Blood. A lot of why people like Aegon is literally just because of his dragon. They like him because his dragon is just so damn pretty and beautiful, and it looks so cool, and he has a cool connection with it. And I feel like that's his one redeeming factor. And they decided to scrap it because they're like, we're not going to give him any redeeming factors in this show.
Yeah, I was about to say, I wonder if that's what it is. Like, I wonder if it's like, if they are the high-towered faction, is it a story choice and a money choice to make them less dragoned up right now? Obviously, season 2 it'll be unavoidable. But it's an interesting idea of like, is that intentional or not? And I don't have an answer.
Yeah, no, I love it there. Yeah, no, and I agree. Yeah, we're waiting for this. Is a story about those dancing dragons, and I think the dance is just beginning there. This was true. I think this was the biggest dragon moment of the show. That's not saying some great insightful thing. So it worked for me, but I really understand where you're coming from on that, Andres.
Yeah, but I do feel like at the end, when Otto is screaming out to open the doors, part of it is a survival method, right? Because he obviously doesn't want to be trapped in there. That's the biggest thing that's on your head. But also, part of me also feels like Otto is like, man, there's two options here. Either we let Meleys and Rhaenys go, or we kind of go down swinging and try and get Aemon is going to have to do like a 40-yard sprint, Daemon style, and just get down to the dragon pit and try to get Vhagar, or someone is going to have to get, Dreamfire or some other dragon and try to fight it out here. But Otto, being the smart one that he is saying, let's survive, let's move on, open the doors right now, have Meleys get out of here, because we're not about to go down swinging now. This is not the time and place.
So if those doors close, that's you're trying to trap me again?
Yeah.
You're down.
My way out. Yeah, no, absolutely. Open the blast doors, close the blast doors. Open the blast doors.
Honestly. Yeah, I mean, just Ken, I know you were saying, like, to touch on the in story. I think we all agree that we love the scene. In world, we don't. It's hard to know because you don't want to do the horror movie thing of like, why didn't they just like bring a friend? Like, you don't want to try to write it so there's no plot. So like realistically, it's like she gets the moral victory because we need a show. But in that moment, I really do think that even if she had burned them all, I don't think that that's good. And I think the character knows that too, because then Rhaenyra comes back to King's Landing having just slaughtered innocents and like.
But innocents have already died, right? She comes. I can't imagine everyone survived the rocks.
No, innocents died for sure. But I think it's almost like in a. People don't care about people don't care about their own peers.
They don't, and I think that's telling too. That's telling that even with Rhaenys, that she's trampling some of these people underfoot. And that's a factor. And so I do agree that there's some sort of moral victory, whether it's right or wrong. Even Otto has the line, what's a few against the many? I'm paraphrasing. And that's something we've heard in shows time and time again. Andres and I have in the past here on Casterly Talk, I think even back in the Daily Thrones days here on this channel, have looked at Tywin and like, hey, he's despicable, but this is also what you do to win the game. And his idea of like, what's a few dead at dinner versus thousands on the field, you can get lost in that. And the question of, there's the why to fight, but the how is sometimes just important. I think Rhaenys chooses an important how, but it could have ended things right then and there. And I think it's fun to have that debate, even to have Condell say that. Yeah, to have Condell say that. So I love what ifs. I love could-haves and should-haves with shows. I don't live with them. This isn't a review. This is a discussion of the show. And so I don't have frustration for it as a viewer. I just have questions as someone watching this in story.
Oh, it's super fun. Like if that happens and Rhaenyra returns, at that point, whether she wants to or not, Rhaenys is acting as a lieutenant for Rhaenyra, by default. So if she burns them all, Rhaenyra comes back, then it's like, oh, you slaughtered a family via your Lieutenant Rhaenys, via your dad's cousin. And now we will forever remember the Rhaenyra reign as having started with bloodshed. And I think that people still, despite the chaos of the episode, are, unless you're Otto or Laris, you are still trying to avoid for the most part. Oh, and Kristen Cole too, but you're still trying to avoid.
Yeah. No, it's again, people are be trampling underfoot, and it's we'll see how that plays out going forward, and whether it was the right decision or not. You might look back and say her motherly instincts, her motherly love, and the connection that she maybe felt on any level, even as deep for Alicent in that moment, could have cost the realm peace early on there. So, Andres, I don't know if you have any thoughts here on this big decision. It's a non-decision, but it's an important one.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I don't know. I feel like at this moment, too, the crowd kind of being behind Aegon, while at the same time Aegon is burning alive, would have been quite a decision on Rhaenys' part. Definitely turn King Landings against you in the blink of an eye, which is definitely something that you don't want to do. But again, Rhaenyra could wash her hands of all that very quickly if Rhaenys stays in Driftmark, and that's end of story. It's not like anyone's gonna dare and go after her when she's doing that with the dragon like Meleys. So I do feel like it's definitely a key decision that the show writers decided to put into the show, which again was never really in the book. There was never really an option for that. If there was, I think it would have been a quick, swift decision by anyone on Team Black to just put him out right away, because again, we're going to get a war regardless, and if anything, more people are going to die in the future in more horrific fashions than that. So this is something that you could do to quickly end the war that is about to come. So yeah, I mean, if anything, it's a fun debate, like you said, and I really do feel like we're gonna see what's going to come of it with Meleys and Rhaenys in the future, because I do feel like this kind of solidified her position a little bit on the Black Council as being a top dog. So I hope we see more of her in the future, more of her character, more of Eve Bass playing Rhaenys, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'm excited for more of her. We'll talk about the, I guess, like finale hype that took to end, but
I'm so excited.
That preview shot of the greens are coming for you and your children while she's still wearing the red armor and everything, I was like, oh, we're at war. That was the first time that it felt like it became the war show, right? Because there hasn't been a declaration yet. That hasn't happened. It's about to happen, but it hasn't happened.
It's about to happen, and it's been a season of getting there. And when it's all wrapped up here, we'll do a look back, as we are also going to do with Rings of Power. And we're not done talking about it, but I love processing it and seeing it. And this is there's been a lot of prequel vibes within this show, and I feel we're finally getting to the meat of the story. We talked about maybe the lack of time jumps going forward. We'll see all those things. We don't know.
The Dragon Wars have begun. It's really that similar energy. And real quick, I just want to throw out two things. I know we're trying to wrap, but there's two things that I think listeners and viewers might be like, oh, they didn't talk about that. One, we'll stay connected here. That carriage scene we touched on.
Yeah, it's great.
Between Alicent and Aegon. I'm just curious to see what your thoughts were. I love the way that it's all this build. He clearly doesn't believe her. We talked about that earlier about his stuff with his dad. There's the cat's paw dagger being represented there, that the spirit of his dad lingers. Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing where like he doesn't want it. That's been throughout the episode, especially the Aemond sibling fight, which is both thematically powerful and funny. The way that evolves, that walk that he does, I think from the carriage there, I think when he realizes, like, I think he has conflated like being the king means being like dad, and then once he got up there, he was like, oh wait, I could do what I want, and then he started showboating, and I love the way that connects. And then also the do you love me, and she just says imbecile. Of course I do, but also she couldn't just say it.
At least we don't see her say it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because the carriage ride is interesting. And if Aegon is, I'm not a fan. I mean that in a great way as a viewer. I've been rooting against him. But that moment, I at the coronation, because he's outright said it to his brother, and his brother's not. I don't know if I'd want Aemond as a king, but his brother's not wrong that you Aegon are unworthy. But when the crowd, the cheers and the playing into it, like you said, it almost was like he got to the wrestling ring and heard the calls. I felt that was a little bit, a power, not just personally, I can do what I want, but just like I have the power, and power is quite a drug. It's a hell of a drug. And I felt him leaning into that moment,
especially if he's not sure. He's not sure if his mother loves him. Then he hears thousands of people that are at least saying they do.
Yeah, exactly. It's the hole. It's the void. So So I don't know about that. Yeah, but great stuff, Andres. Your thoughts on Aegon the Unloved?
Yeah, it really is one of those interesting things where you become so despicable, immoral, just the lowest of the lows in your humanity, and you kind of reject your own values in anything you probably had. And then you have this idea in your head that because of that, you are not loved by anyone and that you are the way you are. And then suddenly you have thousands and thousands of people cheering for you. It changes you, and it really makes you feel like, oh crap, like all this time I never thought I was loved because I was such a piece of trash that all of a sudden it makes you feel like, okay, maybe I can be a piece of trash and be loved.
People that don't know I am and don't care. It's like, so there's that. And then real quick, the last thing, and I'm going to say this as diplomatically as I can. We've gone now over an hour without talking about Feetgate. And I do think it's important to note, I'm going to throw this out there.
We don't have to.
There's no, there's just not, I don't want to talk about the act, but I think that it's an important, he's a main character, is an important note. I say this with no background in sex psychiatry or sex psychology, sex therapy. I say this with zero desire to kink shame, just talking about a character thing. I think that, weirdness aside, funny. First of all, it's funny to see everybody freak out about it, considering what we've already seen in both shows. It's like incest, but I draw the line at feet. I think that's hilarious. But then there's this element of, forget the grossness of like what's actually going down physically. This guy's psychology has made him such a unique villain in this that I just think it has to be noted that what's the one thing that he can like really get off on in that way? The thing he can never have, which is just two normal appendages. Like born with one that's all messed up. And so we've seen the way that his brain works. He's already highborn, but he would never get to be Harwin, and he would never get to be, the theme of Second Sons. So we saw what he was able to do, willing to do, and capable of in that regard. But then there are personal things that are not status related, and he's just as much of a freak and a control fiend about those things too. He can't go, there's no one he can destroy in the world to get a pair of feet that both work correctly. So what does it do? Then it's a power trip. It's both the I can't have that, and that becomes my fixation, and then also I want you, the queen, to know that I will always have the upper hand. And I think that was fascinating. So that's all I wanted to say. I know it's an uncomfortable thing to unpack, but
look, it other than, he clearly founded WikiFeet, which is, that itself is, I'm with you with the stuff you said up top there, Alden. Not here to do any of that kind of shaming, but WikiFeet's a problem for a lot of people I know. So it was interesting. I think in the history of Game of Thrones, this was one of the least disturbing scenes I've ever witnessed.
It's true.
What's funny is I was down in La Jolla and I avoided the spoilers enough, but I started to see some of the feet stuff come up. I'm sorry, I'm tired and grumpy. So this is the one you'd have problems with. All the things 8 seasons, like, what are you gonna do? Like,
it's that too, yeah. And again, like, and to your point, like, not to make it like an industry conversation, when you bring up something like a WikiFeet thing, it's about consent. Everyone, if you're watching or listening right now, and you're like, wait, the feet are my jam. I want you to have your jam nonstop forever. Live your truth.
God bless your jams, but
it's got to be with people that are cool with it, and WikiFeet does not represent that. And what Laris here did here does not represent that. But but I just thought it was interesing that it's like they could have chosen anything for him.
No, but by the way, I think you're really right in what you're talking about, or at least I agree with your insight there, and what it says about Allison and the compromises along the way, or what she feels she has to do to give back. There's a lot there, absolutely a lot there. I think I'm in a spot of I'm over internet hubbub.
Oh, totally. You're right too. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm not disputing you. Just like
not at all.
I saw it on the internet first. I saw it on the internet, and then I watched the episode. I was like, really?
Yeah, it's like after Ramsay, after what Joffrey would do, like it's sort of like
they got an agreement. Let the crazy kids do what they want to do. You know,
so,
and Larys is diabolical, and he's interesting in his own way. You know, I know I insulted Andres earlier by comparing him to Baelish. Kidding, my friend. And I love it. Anyways, but Andres, I'll let you get in there. Maybe I'm just in a tired, grumpy mood. Some of it, but I want to make clear. I think you have great points about the scene. Andres, your thoughts?
Yeah. Don't go on WikiFeet.
Don't do that.
It's somebody, too many people I know are on there against their will. So.
It's true. Yeah. And so, like, again, for the listeners, viewers, I only brought it up because I didn't want anyone listening to say, are they too weirded out to talk about a character moment? No, we're not. We're not too weirded out to talk about it.
Literally not weirded out in the sense of it was so weird that I was like, yep, I am watching Game of Thrones.
Like, yeah, it's very Game of Thrones. Yeah, it's very much in that world, and it's very much with their style and with their touch as far as adding some sort of bizarre character trait for a individual. And I feel like that's perfect for Larys because of everything you said, Alden. So yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. Everything you nailed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, Sarah Hess wrote it. Claire Kellner directed it, and I thought it was so intriguing in the sense of again, I saw a little bit. I knew there was something with feet coming, and I thought the way this show has gone, 8 episodes so far in House of Dragon, I thought someone's feet were going to get cut off. Right? I was just like, anytime there's danger emerge, I was like, someone's feet, is Westerling's feet just going to get cut off? To have it be this, it's not that it's not a little weird, but I think that's on purpose, and that's we always ask, what is the scene trying to tell you? And I agree with your insight there. And as it started to happen, I was like, oh, Allison's had a tough day. She's just taking off her shoes. Oh, she's had a tough day. She's taking. Oh, okay. She did have a tough day though.
Instead of spending dollars or crypto, he spends information. And that's the thing. So now that we've said that. I do truly think that we've gotten through almost everything. I mean, there's Eric and Arik, which is an interesting schism, but we'll have time to explore that further.
Yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. Episodes of vows and oaths and what side and sides being broken and you know, a lot there, a lot in the imagery. And even you go into Lars too. I noticed really for the first time, I'm sure it's been there before, but you know, he's got his sigils, little firefly, right? And his cane, how it's just like jammed in there and cracked, and the cane's kind of cracked and broken. Another kind of visual of what kind of character we're dealing with here. So we are looking towards the finale as we begin to wrap up. I cannot believe we're here, and you know, we'll talk about how long we have to wait for season 2, much like we also did with Rings of Power. But we're heading to the big finale. But it's interesting, we definitely did this divide. We had the greens. Now we're going to get the blacks, and we're going to see how they react to this. I love how it played out. I loved as the episode rolled on, I kind of got the sense of, oh, we're not going to go to Dragonstone because quite frankly, they don't even know yet. So we're getting information they don't even have. They're going to be uploaded, and it's the information that's going to come in a big way with Rhaenys riding on over there. What you been doing? Why you got dragon armor? Let me tell you. And that's going to take us in the finale. So, Andres, what are you looking forward to in this finale? How are we going to take it home?
Do you guys watch the teaser trailer for next week? Do you guys watch that? Because
the full teaser, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. Because if you
if you
don't, I didn't want to spoil anything. But yes,
but good. If everyone wants to know, because I know some friends that don't. I always forget to turn it off because I'm gathering my laptop.
Yeah, I always leave it on because I want to see the inside the episode thing that they do afterwards. But it plays it, so I was just like, yeah, I might as well watch it. I know kind of what's going to happen anyways, but. The idea that they're showing the Black Council, they're probably going to do a coronation for Rhaenyra, which is awesome. But we're also going to Storm's End, which is incredibly exciting too, to try and see what the Baratheons are up to. So I think that'll be a really cool way to end the season in a very cinematic kind of way. I think that's a really cool way to do it. And I know now me overall kind of looking back on season 1, because I feel like that's kind of what we're getting to. Obviously we don't have to do that now because we still have 1 episode left, but I do still feel like maybe we rushed quite a bit to get to where we are now. And it feels like, man, we got through so damn much in 1 season.
Decades.
Yeah. And now we have to wait probably decades to get the next season. Can I say real quick, come on, HBO, come on, Warner Brothers. Like, y'all should have been on this beforehand. And I know part of it, I think they announced after episode 1, right, that they were going to do season 2. And I was like, what are you guys doing? You guys should have been.
Don't act like you were ever worried about renewal.
I absolutely love what you're saying. And I want to, let's preface this. We got bigger problems in the world. None of us here, the three of us understand that. I want to be clear. But I had the same issue after Rings of Power ended. Well, I'm like, what? I know COVID and you're moving. Look, just do it. Just find a way to do it. I'm impatient. I can't wait.
Have faith in your show, man. Come on.
That's out of our passion for the show. But I'm with you too. It's a long wait, it seems. But
that's the one bummer for me is like, have a little bit of faith in your show, have a little bit of faith in what your writers are doing and what your cast is doing, and realize the product that you have on hand right now and make sure you're ready for renewal right away. But yeah, I'm so excited. I'm excited to see more dragon action at the very end. I'm glad they're adding it. Hopefully in season 2, we see even more, which I think we will. So I'm excited to see where they go with that.
Yeah, I mean the budget's already huge, but we saw in Thrones that you get a little spike every time. So I will say, absolutely not going to indicate anything about what we know, whether that's through books or wikis or whatever. My mother watches this show, and we happen to be watching it at the same time. I went over to where she was watching. She was watching next week's. She saw the Storm's End stuff, and I blurted out, "OF," and she goes, "What?" And I said, "Nothing." Nothing at all.
Good way to play it. Let people have their journeys when we can. All right. Yeah. Looking forward to next week too. Looking forward to take it home, and looking forward to, in a show that's saying, hey, we're not necessarily telling you to root for anybody, but you might have an idea who you want to root for. The Blacks are kind of sitting in the power seat for that. So we will go to the Princess of Dragonstone and see what's going on there. Storm's End as well, and a lot. We'll be here to discuss it. I always have a lot of fun with you too, or Rachel, and she's here, Nikki, all the folks, Lauren, who have joined us. More on the way. We're not done broadcasting about this stuff, even though these 2 seasons are wrapping up. So before we get out of here, I want you gentlemen to let them all know where to find you and your other work. Andres, it's good to have you here. I know we normally record on Sunday nights, and you have some other things you're doing with your other channels. So good to have you here for the duration of the show. Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Squad Leader Ace, and on YouTube and on TikTok at First Cut TMO and First Cut.
First Cut, where a lot of great stuff is going down. Follow Ace and his wonderful insights. Alden, where are you? Other than when you're here holding down the fort for me, which I greatly appreciate, as I start to feel more and more like Viserys inside my bones every day. So I appreciate having you around. Where can they find you?
Hey man, when the crown falls, you turn off to the side, I'll be there. Come on, Ken. Come on, get up there. You can find me personally at that Alden Diaz, THATALDEN DIAZ. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, ? I put 2 up there. Whether or not I continue it is still up in the air. And then Octa Radio, Star Wars Podcast. That's the 3 shows there that form that little family of Star Wars conversational content. And that's my main interview show, also in Andor season right now. So doing Andor stuff on the One and Done Film Club with Nikki and our great friend Reed. And wherever else, I will let you know, because, that's the internet.
Let you know, indeed. You can find me at Ken Napzok. I am on TikTok. I've got to get back. I have 6 videos up, and then I just dropped it cold turkey again. I'm going to get back up. But you can also find all the things I do at kennapzok.com. If you want to see me do some comedy with Mark Ellis live, we're going to be in Seattle very soon. You get ticket information on my website. Also got some stuff locally coming up in the Los Angeles area as well. And all of it leads to Mark Ellis's comedy special taping on December 3rd, which I'll be a part of as well. It'll be a fun event. So if you're a fan of me or Mark and any of the stuff we've done on the Schmodown or Schmoes Know over the year, come on out, get information there. Going to be a lot of fun. That is it for now. So for all the dragons making big moves, we'll see you next time here on Casterly Talk.